Time to talk football. We have Russ Bliss from fantasyfootballstarters.com. Week 15 already. Hard to believe. Just 2 weeks left in the regular season here.
Yeah, I know. And the fantasy playoffs are going on right now. It seems like every year the football season just flies right by. And before you know it, we're talking about this is the second to last week before your fantasy championship. So.
And before folks start doing their rosters this morning, we want to give an update on that injury list so you know who to not start or who to go ahead and start.
Yeah, definitely. Because at this point, you pretty much know who you're going to start. It's a matter of, is my guy injured?
Okay.
And of course, topping the injury list, Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. He suffered a concussion last week. He's been ruled out for tonight's game against New England, so Matt Flynn will get the start. Brett Favre, he's been ruled out for tomorrow night's game because of the shoulder injury. The rookie Joe Webb is going to get the start because Tavares Jackson was placed on injured reserve. Matt Castle for Kansas City. He's only 11 days removed from having an emergency appendectomy, so he's very questionable.
Possibly
he's questionable, and they say a game-time decision.
Okay.
They're saying that they actually expect him to play, but do yourself a favor, go with another option.
If you can,
you don't want to take a chance because anytime you've got a guy in a situation like that, definitely stands a chance of being pulled early in a football game. Then at running backs, you've got guys like Chris Ivory for the New Orleans Saints. He's had to take blood-rich injections into his hamstring to try and promote healing. He's very questionable. I don't think he's going to play. Pierre Thomas will probably dominate the carries for New Orleans. Joseph Adai and Mike Hart for the Indianapolis Colts. Both are listed as questionable. Neither are expected to play, though, so it's Donald Brown and Javaris James again. Then at wide receiver, you've got Steve Smith of the New York Giants. He was placed on injured reserve earlier this week with a knee injury, so he's definitely out. However, Mario Manningham, his teammate, will start because he's probable. He suffered a hip injury last week, but he was able to practice, so he's going to start opposite Hakeem Nicks. You got Mike Williams and Ben Abamanu from the Seattle Seahawks. Both of them sat out last week. However, both of them are going to play this week.
Back in this morning, okay.
And then Lee Evans for the Buffalo Bills. He was placed on injured reserve with an ankle injury last week. He's not going to play.
Okay. Now that we know who not to start, let's talk about your best advice for this week, because even if your studs were duds last week, you say don't let that rule of how you start them today.
Right, exactly. When you've got stud players, you start them every week. They're always going, there's going to be some weeks where you have down weeks. Guys like Adrian Peterson last week only had 26 yards rushing, but you know that Adrian Peterson is a stud running back. He's going to be one of those guys that's one of the top fantasy running backs in the NFL. You got to keep him going this week.
Okay.
Guys like Greg Jennings, Dwayne Bowe, Brandon Lloyd, they all had really poor weeks last week, but they have proven throughout the course of this season that they are star players. You got to have them in your roster. And also, don't agonize over your picks. You know, so often I get so many people.
Don't spend hours and hours, guys, and neglect the family.
Exactly. They're sitting there and they're like, oh, I don't know what to do. Just make the decision. Make the decision, go with it, and remember, fantasy football is all about having fun.
Exactly.
Yes, the trophy is nice, but fun, that's what it's all about, and building camaraderie.
Exactly. All right, let's do our Cardinals focus as we do every week, of course, taking on Denver Broncos. And I'm impressed. I thought they were done, but you said there's still a slight chance that they can make it to the playoffs. It would need a miracle, but there's still that slight chance.
Yeah, it's a mathematical possibility, but really, that's about it. But the Arizona Cardinals last week, with the debut of John Skelton as the starting quarterback, he did a really nice job last week with executing the offense, not trying to play too above his head. And the Cardinals, you know, he found Larry Fitzgerald several times in that game, despite Champ Bailey being on Larry, so it was nice to see. Now, the running game for the Arizona Cardinals, Tim Hightower, great game, absolute best performance of his career. 148 yards, 2 touchdowns in that game. He was incredible right there. And with Beanie Wells still having some problems with the stomach virus that kept him out in the second half, expect Tim Hightower to have another good game this week. Conversely, for the Denver Broncos, or for the
Panthers
for the Carolina
Panthers today.
Thank you. I'm looking
Denver was last week. I got confused for a second too. I'm with you on that.
I want to relive that game because that was so good. Jay Feely was incredible.
Yes, they did well.
But the Carolina Panthers, they've really struggled. Their rookie quarterback, Jimmy Clausen, just has not been good this year. He's not able to find his star wide receiver, Steve Smith. They do have 2 good running backs, though, and Jonathan Stewart and Mike Goodson. Mike Goodson's got a 3-game streak with a touchdown right now, and Jonathan Stewart has been getting back into that form that made him one of the top fantasy running backs, at least in that top 20 early on at fantasy drafts. So the Cardinals have got to stop the run and just try and make Jimmy Clausen beat them, and they ought to be able to do that. I think the Cardinals pull out another victory. Our analyzer products predict 26-20 for the Arizona Cardinals this week.
26-20. All right. What's bad for the Panthers is good for us, so we'll take it.
Right.
All right. Before we go, we have an offer for our viewers from you guys.
That's right. Of course, we do it every week. First person to email Russ at fantasyfootballstarters.com is going to win full access for the rest of the 2010 season. And of course, the trivia question this week, we saw the great performance by Jay Feely last week, but Jay Feely's 5-yard touchdown run was the first time since 1988 that a Cardinals kicker had a rushing attempt in a regular season game. Who was that kicker in 1988 who had the rushing attempt? Russ at fantasyfootballstarters.com for the answer on that.
All right. Can you give us a clue? Because I was like 88. I have no idea. I was busy playing with the fashion plates.
I remember those. My sister was playing with those at the time.
We're old, Russ. We're old. Thank you very much,
Seasoned.
sir.
I like the term seasoned.
Much better. Have a great Merry Christmas.
Oh,
we'll see you the
you.
following
You
Sunday.
too?
You'll be here?
Yes.
With more tips? Okay, very good. Thank you very much.